You are listening to the Nosy Dragon. I'm your dungeon master / innkeeper, Jessa. I am joined by my player / patron, Ben.
A pleasure to meet you.
In today's session, we are talking all about magic in practice. This episode was made possible in part by What's Flap. More about them later in this episode.
Oh, it's good to be back here. I love the musty old smell of this place.
Yeah. Welcome. I see you're down a friend. Where is the Josh?
It's a bit of an awkward story, but we're working with a cleric to get him revived right now.
Death is a pesky
It's
thing.
it just gets right in the way. Like, we were getting ready to go out for a little celebration on the town, and of course that happens to be the night that an old ex sends an assassin after him, along with a whole hunting party, getting confused with him and the deer that they were set up. And so it was this big three-way confusion. It was an elixir mixed for death, and unfortunately Josh drank it. So yeah, luckily
don't drink random potions you find,
that's more of an analogy for me than him. But actually the cleric's really nice in this town. He said that he's of course there's a waiting list, but seemed like a really sweet person.
Well, it's a perfect segue into today's topic. Magic and practice. Someone's gonna have to practice magic to get that man back alive.
A lot of magic practicing happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing. So just jumping into, magic in D&D from just a first place starting place, right?
Yeah.
I really love the way magic is used. I think magic being so well defined is something that makes D&D so playable. So it makes magic so tangible and so concrete, and so this is a part of the world. This has structure. This has clear boundaries and guidelines. And on the same note, when I look at magic in like Harry Potter, or magic in Lord of the Rings, or in these kind of looser fantasy settings where what the magic is capable of is really kind of vague. Like,
Right.
It's very story driven. What the magic can do is very, very story compelled. It's all about what the character is going through. There's a scene in Harry Potter where Harry Potter holds his wand above his head to scare off a bunch of Dementors, these ghostly creatures, and he summons an intense amount of light energy.
Yeah.
And he scares them all away because the power of the memory that he was calling upon was so profound that it generated such a strong spell. And it's just like, you don't have that kind of stuff in D&D, which is kind of good and also kind of bad.
I get what you're saying. I think it's important to, like, the big difference between the two is that Dungeons and Dragons is a game. And I think that a lot of players make this mistake when they start going into D&D, is because they want it to play out like a movie. But the thing is with a movie is everything's already pre-written. Everything's set out. It has a plot, a set structure. But D&D, everything is like yet to happen. A lot of it's on the fly. And so if you don't have those rules and regulations, it's so quickly for things to fly right off the handle. So having magic be so clearly defined is what makes D&D playable as a game instead of something that you'd sit through and watch.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because, it's like, well, right now it would make sense for my character to summon the greatest fireball he's ever cast, because this is the guy who killed his mother and has now killed his adventuring long-term friend, and it would just be so thematically appropriate for him to summon a fireball that does 100 d10 fire damage and engulfs half the room. And it's like, yeah, it would, wouldn't it? And let's cast that fireball. What level are you going to use it at? And it's like I know that's really, it'd be really cool and that'd be really special, and that would, wouldn't that be amazing? But unfortunately, no. So it saddens me, because it's like, man, I wish there was some way to kind of show that. Like, okay, you wanna try to power up your fireball. Well, once per day or once per I don't know, session or something, you can use, a thematic story driven moment die, like a superiority die or something, and you can add to the hit, or you can roll with, special advantage, or you can roll double the normal output of whatever. If you can get high enough on this wisdom saving throw, this constitution saving throw, then
Yeah,
you can get granted this extra ability. I think that'd be cool.
definitely. I mean, I don't see anything wrong personally with that. I recently came across a rule that I've taken into my campaigns called cinematic advantage, which is kind of
Mm.
similar to that, where if a player wants to try and break out and do something really interesting with the environment, or with, like, climbing on top of a character and trying to drag them and pull them down, you can incite advantage if they pass a skill check. But I don't know. Part of what makes D&D so exciting is the fact that you don't know what's going to happen. And even in those, like, top amazing pinnacle moments, if your original attack fails, like that giant fireball that you want to cast to finish them off, if that doesn't finish them off, that doesn't mean it's the end for everyone. It could be like a gateway to something new or interesting happening. Like maybe the bad guy survives that final attack, or like it misses, but he realizes, like, oh wow, that could have killed me. I'm out of here. Like, you know what? I'm gonna call these lackeys to come in and
Mm.
like do the fight, and then that
Yeah,
leads.
yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of like on the DM's shoulder to sometimes to make that possible, right? And I've done that
Yeah.
to a certain degree, where it's like, an NPC has 248 hit points, and the player gets a critical hit after saying something really epic, and it's something that I feel like, man, I really want to reward this moment, and I'm like, yeah, he's dead, even though he wasn't even close to being dead. It's just like, yeah, man, no, like, yeah, he's dead. Like, so I feel like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, yeah, there's no game rules that support, you know, thematic appropriate power ups, but there's nothing stopping you as a dungeon master from just making it so, And I
Yeah.
feel like I've had those moments where that kind of stuff has happened, but it was more because of the dice than because of my decision. We were fighting the kind of the last boss of a major campaign arc, named Paradox, and he was,
Ooh.
the Lord of Time or whatever, and
Time can be a little sketchy to get
Josh.
into.
Yeah, Josh is normally here. Was cast lightning bolt or something. Chain something like, I
Chain
think lightning
lightning.
bolt. No, it wasn't chain lightning. It's the
No?
one that's the line spell one.
That's lightning bolt, yeah.
Yeah, so he cast lightning bolt. We didn't know at the time. He was a sorcerer, and he used his sorcery points to do twin spell, which you can't do on a line spell. But we didn't know that, so we let him do that. And at the time, we were also doing a thing that, for spells that have saving throws, or abilities that have saving throws, if you got a natural one, that counted as a critical hit on the person doing the saving throw, because we were like, man, we really wish that some of these spells, could have critical damage. Like, wouldn't that be cool? And so we said yes. We gave it a shot,
Yeah.
and so he rolled twin spell lightning bolts, and the boss rolled a nat one on his saving throw, and was out of automatic successes. And it was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, he's dead. that is that is so much damage. Like, and it
Yeah.
was
Oh my
absurd.
god.
It was so much damage.
I definitely feel it too. Sometimes it totally comes down to the dice.
Yeah.
You know, when you roll three nat 20s in a row to try and take
Mm,
out like a boss, it's
yeah.
just it's like, yeah,
You have
no.
double disadvantage. I rolled two nat 20s. What?
Huh. Wow. Well, I guess, yep. You were
Yeah,
you
I
were
guess yeah.
you were meant to do it.
You're born to crit this man.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
that's what makes it so fun is you don't know what's going to come up with the dice. Sometimes you have those absolutely insane moments that just don't make sense except for, yep, nope, it's fated to happen.
Yeah. So I really I want to create a magic system where you can have this kind of subtle, almost spiritual magic that functions because of the willpower of the caster, right? Because that caster is willing this to happen, and therefore it happens. It's like,
Yeah.
let's say you're using Bigby's magic hand, right? Was it Bigby's giant hand or something?
Yeah, Big B's massive huge girthy hand.
Yeah. So you cast that spell, and to catch someone who's falling, and their weight limit exceeds the hand, let's say,
Right.
right, for whatever reason. Maybe you're trying to catch two people, and their weight limit together exceeds the maximum carrying capacity of the hand.
Or one
I feel
person
like
who just looted a shit ton of gold.
So I feel like, well, if this person is your spouse and child, right? I feel like maybe you could somehow exceed the power of the spell naturally to increase its carrying capacity. I was watching Vox Machina, which is the Critical Role's animated TV show about their campaign.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a scene, spoiler alert, there's a scene in like episode 9 or something where the bard is using Bigby's hand and the whole party's on it and it's too heavy and the hand is dropping. And it's like, well, it shouldn't be dropping slowly. And he's like using his magic to bolster it, to keep it in the air. It's like, well, that's not really how it works. It's just you exceed the limit and you fall.
Right.
It doesn't slow fall, but it's thematically appropriate that he's like, I'm gonna put more effort into it, and we're gonna it's gonna make it possible.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that would be, so that's fun, that's cool, rather than like, nope, you all just drop into the acid and die because Bigby's hand has a weight limit of 500 pounds and there's 6 of you guys trying to stand on this hand, so it's too heavy and you all fall.
Yeah.
It's like that's not cool. So I feel
So-
like, yeah, I don't know. I want it. It can be there if you really want it to be there, but yeah.
I absolutely agree. I think that having those moments can be so like thrilling and compelling for a game, and in the end, it is to the DM's discretion. And to that point, I think it also heavily depends on what players you are with, because sometimes you have your deep rule lawyers who will feel like, no, this is unfair. Like, what if the enemies pull something like this? I don't want that to happen. Or it could be the opposite, where you have someone who sees that, oh, for these, heightened moments where it's like the rule of cool, like I can get away with a lot more. Like, I want to exploit
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, that's because I was just kind of thinking. I was like, well, if you have some sort of like, you know, once a day you can bolster your magic, and then it's like the metagamer guy is like, okay, I'm gonna bolster my magic to whatever, and it's like, why? And it's like, well, because I haven't used my bolster magic today, and I want to do massive damage on this dragon. It's like, but this dragon has no thematic connection to any of you. Like,
Yeah.
you just randomly decided to explore this cave, and there happened to be a dragon in it who you guys are now fighting. And it's like, yeah, so I'm gonna use my bolster magic die, and it's like, This is for like, when you meet the villain, or when you're trying to save another party member's life, and you wanna cast cure wounds to resurrect someone, and you can't do that normally, but we're gonna push the boundaries, and we're gonna make it happen, because that would be awesome. And it's like, all right, roll your thing, and if you can get a nat 20 on your wisdom saving throw, I'm gonna allow you to bring them back to 1 HP.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, and it's like that would be really cool because it is healing magic, and you're using all of your effort. I would also say like you might get 5 levels of exhaustion, and
Yeah, having some penalty set up about it
yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah, right. Because in the TV shows and movies, whenever they really push themselves, or in books, they're always like pass out after or something.
I remember recently that happened actually in our campaign because we were trying to escape this hag's den that was collapsing and filling with water because it was under a lake, and my character Ori was trying to swim out and survive, but they were drowning. Like my character was gonna die before they were able to complete
Mm.
any of the major things that they wanted to because they drowned to death. And I still had key points left. And you were like, look, if you spend these key points, I'll give you another
Yeah.
roll and you'll have like double the exhaustion coming out, but you'll be able to make it to the surface. And I did. And it was like such a satisfying feeling to be like, wow, I really thought that was just going to be the end of my character. Like, yes, this amazing hero who I've been building through drowns because they couldn't swim fast enough.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was a there was a part of me that was wanting to just let you guys drown because of everyone's reckless decisions that led us to that thing. And I was like, hey man, actions have consequences, but I was like, this isn't fun though. Actions
Yeah.
have consequences within reason. Right, yeah. So yeah, thematic pushing of the moment to go further in that scene was, I think, was quite acceptable.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. And you know, I feel like in that same campaign, we've had moments where our decisions thematically kicked us in the ass. Um, and you know that's important. Players got to learn that they can't just murder hobo their way through adventures.
Yeah.
Or cast fireball in tight knit quarters where there's very limited oxygen supply.
Yeah. I mean, there's technically no rule for that either. And I'm sure a more rules lawyery person would be like, oh, if you use if in a room where oxygen is limited and you cast a fire spell, the fire spell is actually not consuming any oxygen in the room, because the fire spell is, summoned, it's magical fire
Yeah.
that is, being fed magically from another plane of existence. Either it's summoning fire from the plane of fire, or it is just, the magic in D&D, the weave, fabricating fire out of nothing,
Right.
right? Generating fire from, pure will into existence. And I would say like, yeah, okay, so sure, if we go down that route and say that's how it works, then yeah, I guess that fire spell would not be consuming any of the oxygen in the room. Only if it lit something on fire because of it,
Yeah.
would that fire then consume, you know, oxygen in the room. But I feel like
I was about to say, like, you just argued against that whole encounter we put together. Like, you
yeah,
better come up with a strong counterpoint.
it's just I just feel like, but that's not how it works. It doesn't explicitly say that
Right.
in anywhere. It doesn't say, oh, it's summoning, you reach into the plane of fire and grab a handful of flame and then toss it, and that's firebolt. It doesn't say that. It's, you cast firebolt and then you throw a ball of fire that I just feel like, no, 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 no. Sorry. It does.
It's very much up to the DM's discretion and what makes sense for the lore of the game. Speaking of which, you mentioned the weave, And in the campaigns that we've played together, I've found that you've always heavily like implemented this kind of connection to the weave for each of the characters. You describe it in great detail, and occasionally you'll even have players visit the weave. Where did you first like learn about the weave, and like how much of the lore have you built up around it
Yeah.
yourself?
There is this YouTuber called Mr. Rex.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't even know if it's Mr. Rex. I might be like MX Rex or something like that. I've always called him Mr. Rex. He might be like M. It's not probably not Mr. Rex, but so this guy Mr. Rex, and he does these deep dives into D&D lore, according to things called like Dragon Magazine, which apparently is like these little snippets of D&D content in between publishings that they did way back in the day.
They really could have gone for Dragazine magazine there, and that's shameful. But continue.
Yeah. Sure. Uh, so yeah, those magazines had little deep dives into certain creatures' lore and stuff like that, but also older editions of the Monster Manual or the Player's Handbook or the Dungeon Master's Guide had content that didn't make it into the fifth edition printing, because they slimmed down certain things, or there's just more monsters, or whatever the issue. They changed their mind or something.
For sure.
So he does these things of like these deep dives where he talks about like what the monster manual doesn't tell you about, or I think it's just what it's called, what they don't tell you about basilisks or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Goes deep into the lore. So he did a thing about how magic worked and the weave, and then I watched some more videos about the weave, and basically it's like in the D&D world, there's this like other plane of existence almost, that is kind of invisibly tied to everything, and
Yeah.
it's called the weave, and it's where you generate and connect with magic. It's where magic comes from, in D&D. It's if you're, you know, a powerful wizard, it's because you have a better connection and understanding of how to manipulate and pull from and you know use and touch the weave. There's all kinds of little interesting things about the weave. There's also a lot of stuff about the weave in Spelljammer.
Oh, cool.
There's a ancient lore thing he did an episode about called like I think a 12th level spell, right? Because like most spells only go to
To
ninth
ninth,
level,
yeah.
but there used to be a 10th level spells that were regularly accessible and so on at higher levels. And the god of magic, I can't remember her name, but she at one point, her job, what she did according to D&D lore, was she constantly was repairing damage to the weave and making sure
Right.
that the weave was healthy and stable. And at some point there was a war going on, and this wizard decided that he was going to steal the avatar, well, slash become the god of magic in order to use her power. And he
Oh my
created a
god.
10th level spell that allowed him to become the god of magic. But because he wasn't a god, he wasn't capable of omnipresence, and he wasn't fixing the weave at the rate that it was being destroyed. And especially at that time, magic was so much more prevalent.
Sure, and especially in the context of a war where it's being heavily used on both sides. I'm
Yeah.
positive.
But just, I mean, back then, magic was incredibly easy to access in that time period of D&D. It was so easy. You know, everyone used cantrips. Everyone used magic. People had many more spell slots,
Right.
and how high of a magic you could cast was just kind of everything was just kind of unlimited and go for it.
Wow.
So he basically he killed the god of magic by becoming her, and when the spell ended, she had to become like she had to be reincarnated basically,
Right.
and
Wow.
so she was reincarnated, and she decided when she came back to life, no more everyone gets to play with magic, no more, trusting mortals with such powerful and dangerous magic. I'm limiting what people are capable of, and she made the highest
Right.
spell that a mortal can cast. She forced that to be a ninth level spell, nothing beyond that. And she also
Wow.
limited how many spells a person can do by limiting people's connection to the weave, and that's where spell slots came from.
Oh, that's
Where
so cool. Like the rules speaking for themselves through this one character's actions.
Yeah, and also it made her job a lot easier. So now, basically, nobody has access to magic, and it's much more magical and much more unique and much more special. And so now her job of repairing the weave has become much more relaxed, and she, in general, has become much darker and much more unhappy than she was before. She was used to be a lot more jovial and a lot more allowing, and now she's much darker and sassier and untrusting.
Untrusting.
Yeah, so
I love lore
that's
like
where
that.
I talk about the weave and stuff because it kind of fascinates me. I like to think of there's so much deep lore when it comes to D&D
Yeah.
because there's books and stuff and comics and there's all this kind of stuff that's not even the rule books. It's just lore about the world, and there's so much to go into, and how it works, how a soul works in D&D is a whole another thing.
That was another thing that was very present in the campaigns that you set up was soul magic and what, you know, how different
Yeah.
spells were constituted through sacrifice and like even the power of the gods depending on the souls that they allowed into their demiplanes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like gods getting more power based on the followers because it's like them people having faith. It's like in D&D it's not just like, oh, I believe. It's you also kind of make a promise and you sign kind of a contract with certain gods when you
A
agree to follow
devotion.
them. Exactly. And in doing that, you lend your allotment of weave to that god. You like share it with them,
Oh,
which is
whoa.
what grants them more power. So it's like you having faith in them literally grants them more power because you're lending them a connection to your section of the weave, your access to the weave, granting them a larger network connection thing. I'm not sure if that's completely canon or if that's my own stuff because it's all mixed up here. I'm not sure.
Well, whatever it is, it's hella fun to play. And I think that's true for every individual play style. I doubt that very many people stick solely to what's written about the lore. I'm sure everyone takes bits and pieces, and I think that it's important for people to like research what's already there, but also make their own speculations. Like
Yeah.
seeing the soul magic that existed in our campaigns, having those interactions where like you are transported or like visually see the weave and your own like soul attached to it through a thread. It was so like interesting and compelling and like it built up a lot more depth for my own character as well. It's so cool. I'm really glad that you shared about that 'cause I've been meaning to ask you more about the weave.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, some of my favorite spells are kind of spells that you don't think about any of the stuff that we talked about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's talk about spells.
So one of my favorite spells, obviously, it's not a hard choice. It's Prestidigitation.
Yeah.
It's just so useful. I mean, like whenever I'm playing a caster, I try to get Prestidigitation, even if they don't have it as part of their spell list. I try to look for some way to get access to it. I
Yeah.
just think it's such a handy little tool. It's so it communi I don't know. It feels so magical, right? Like, when you think of like uh, frick Sir King Arthur's wizard. What's the guy's name?
The great wizard Pendragon.
Nah, whatever. I can't remember his name.
Oh,
But anyway,
Merlin the Magical.
Merlin. Yeah, thanks, Merlin. So when you think of Merlin, the kind of magic he does, at least in the cartoon one,
Right.
The animated Merlin, he does like little whimsical magical things. There's also Mickey Mouse and Fantasia, kind of the hat allowing him to like make inanimate objects come to life and things like that.
Yeah.
When you think of like Harry Potter, a lot of the magic, like uh, something reparo and it fixes your glasses. It's like little tiny things that, ease of life, the kind of stuff that me as a real human being would actually get function out of. Like,
Yeah.
as a real person, if I had access to D&D magic, you would not find Fireball amongst those spells. Like
Yeah,
if Just
absolutely.
Sun was to learn magic from D&D and have a limited amount of it I can cast every day, a spell I'm not preparing is, Death Ward or not Death Ward.
Like
What's Finger of Death, Power Word Kill,
yeah.
Inflict Wounds,
Deathbringer.
yeah, Toll the Dead. Like
Thunder
none of these
Wave.
things are spells I want. Like what am I gonna do with that? Like, I'll prepare one cantrip. Like give me like, I don't know, Shocking Grasp or something. Like there we go. I'll take that with me just in case I get in trouble. I can zap someone and run away. Like,
Yeah.
it would probably kill your average human being because even your average peasant in real life has like 1d4 HP. So if I did Shocking Grasp on someone, I'd probably instantly murder them.
Yeah.
But
Oh my
you can't
god.
do it. I don't know. Maybe magic in real life. Electric damage is kind of non-lethal for the most part, depending on how much voltage and whatnot. But anyway, so yeah, but like
I just have True Strike, I just guarantee, I can land a hit.
prestidigitation is absolutely one I would want in my real actual life because it's like, oh, my pants, I spilled coffee on my shirt. Dang it. Prestidigitation. It's clean.
Yeah.
Like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, that's so useful. Like, oh man, there's not enough salt on my
I
I
was
don't
about
know,
to say.
my whatever. My mashed potatoes are kind of saltless, and it's like, do you want me to pass the salt? Like, nah, man. Prestidigitation.
Boom, flavor. Good.
Man, I really wish that this Italian sausage was more spicy. Prestidigitation. Like you wanna play a prank on someone, you can do a little farting noise with prestidigitation.
Yeah.
The making little trinkets, right? Like you can make a little trinket that can fit in the palm of your hand. Dude, that's so useful. That's so useful. Imagine being like, where's my phone? Like, prestidigitation, a compass that guides me to my phone. I don't know that you can do that, but
Yeah.
I
That
don't
might
know.
be a little bit outside of but even just being
I
like,
forgot my keys. Prestidigitation, a key for the door. Like it says that you can't make tools, but I think that's just the spell trying to stop you from metagaming prestidigitation into
yeah.
prestidigitation my thieves tools. I don't have to carry thieves tools with me. So
I would say like, yeah, like I need a pen. Boom.
prestidigitation,
Yeah.
exactly. Like the kind of stuff that you imagine a wizard doing when you meet him are not really him flying. Like, yeah, that's one of them. Fly is, of course, a spell
Yeah.
that you'd expect a wizard to know, or teleportation. Yeah, of course. Maybe telepathy or
Unseen Servant, which we'll get to in a minute.
telekinesis. Those are the kind of spells that, like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's wizardy. But when I think of the classic wizard, I think of like little magical flourishes, like closing the door without touching it, heating up my tea before I drink it, snuffing out the lights, turning on the lights, flickering the lights.
Throwing some sparkles in the air. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Shower
Just
sparks.
doing little sparkles or little fun little sounds or making my eyes glow or something like those little things I feel like are so much more impactful when it comes from a magic perspective. And as a player, I played a warlock and I got access to prestidigitation through my race. I was playing a homebrew race and I got prestidigitation and I use prestidigitation constantly, and it's just like it's just so much fun. Basically, can you think of a fun little mechanically useless thing, to do that would whatever, and like you can clean or soil 1 cubic foot of something. I know that in the D&D language, it's you can't purify water with prestidigitation, right? Because there's a spell called purify water, and
Yeah.
that would make it obsolete. But I feel like by the words of the thing, if I'm cleaning the water, it's going to be purified. Like I in real life, if I had prestidigitation, I could absolutely purify some water. Like, so I just feel like, man, prestidigitation in real life just so useful.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's the kind of stuff that gets overlooked in D&D because it's like, well, it doesn't do any damage.
Oh,
And I just feel like, man, my approach when it comes to magic, I always think like, well, how would my character use magic? What is the kind of person he is? What is his relationship with magic? Okay, that's what I'll do. And then because I'm playing a game that I'm gonna fight people with, okay, let me also grab some spells that do damage because it's not fun to be a caster that can't participate in combat because you don't have any utility spells that can do damage.
yeah. Oh, man. I really enjoy casting prestidigitation as a player as well. I think it adds so much of like what it means to be a magic user, and like you can sway a whole slew of commoners to your side, just being like, hey, bam, the lights go out in dramatic fashion.
Yeah.
That might also be thaumaturgy. I think thaumaturgy.
Yeah, thaumaturgy does similar things.
Another classic. I think the two of them have very similar airs to them, where they're not necessarily used for combat, and they're not like incredible utility spells like fly or something, but they add so much flair to being a magic user.
I think Druidcraft is similar to being like Druid's sort of version of prestidigitation, I think.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember like being able to like grow a rose on someone's finger and like have it wilt and fall off, or like on my own, like give someone a flower from my hand. That's cool. That's sick.
Yeah.
It's very Druidish. You speak Druidish.
Yeah, I think those are the kind of spells that I find fascinating and I gravitate to because I just feel like, yeah, man, yeah, for sure, yeah. Druidcraft is prestidigitation for druids. I'm reading the spell right now, and it's like, yeah, no, that's absolutely just.
It's like almost in the description.
Yeah. You can snuff out candles and light campfires and stuff just like prestidigitation. It's similar but more tailored to them, and I think thaumaturgy is basically prestidigitation, but like what would you expect from like a divine kind of magic user, like the making the earth tremble and your eyes glow and your voice boom through the room and stuff like that. It's kind of where prestidigitation is like leaning towards wizardy things. And the classic arcane magic user. Anyway, so that's prestidigitation, easily one of my absolute favorite spells. I know it's no shock. I'm sure nobody listening was like, I've always overlooked prestidigitation. I never thought that was valuable.
I've always looked right over that spell.
Yeah. If you are one of those people who did overlook it, you're welcome.
There you go. There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, man. While we're on the topic of cantrips, I think one that's like often and forgive my pun here, an easy grab is Mage Hand.
Mage Hand. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's something that's in almost every magic user's arsenal for the purpose of it. I feel like that also happens very much to be like a classic
magic user.
Yeah, magic user thing. I mean,
yeah.
Telekinesis is the leveled spell version of Mage Hand, and
yeah,
it can certainly do a lot more. It can be an actual damaging spell, and it has a higher weight capacity. But even just being able to like float something over to the door, to like close it, to pick up a pen and bring it over to you, to like sip your tea while you're working on something else for you, it's so classically wizard, and a lot of people want to use it for doing things like grabbing items they're not supposed to, which is why they almost always weigh 10.1 pounds. That's been such
10.0000001.
Exactly.
So the hand grabs it and struggles, but just can't lift it.
Yeah, you get it like it maybe like a nudge, and then that's it. You're done.
I would like to use my thematical advantage.
I was about to say. I was thinking it in my head, but I didn't know how I was gonna say it. It means so much to me to pick up this crown of lasers.
Yeah, yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, all this talk about spells reminds me of today's sponsor, What's Flap. What's Flap is awesome. Let's get into What's Flap. So, is communication important to your business? Does does it cost you valuable time waiting on birds or worse, horseback mail? Well, then, What's Flap needs to be a part of your business. What's Flap's ravens fly straight to your chosen recipient as long as they are in the same plane as you and can deliver up to 1,000 words verbatim. No need to write it down if you don't want to. Then they fly at breakneck speeds over 1,000 feet per round and always know the location of their target. And for a small fee on the recipient side, they can even respond. So start your 7-day free trial of What's Flap today by using our special password, Nosy. What's Flap, communication service that speaks for itself.
Perfect. That 7-day free trial that's magic right there. Because once you I started with the free trial just thinking like, I need to send a letter to my grandma or something, and I got hooked. It was. I can't use anything else now.
I used it. I immediately summoned a raven for every single person in my contacts book, and then I told them that their horse's extended warranty was about to expire, and that we've been trying to contact them.
Oh, that's genius! That's brilliant.
So even if you just want to do that, guys, definitely give it a shot. Give it a try. Send a magical raven. Bother your friends.
Even if they don't have a horse. In fact, especially if they don't have a horse. That's what makes it better. Yeah. Oh, so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very useful too. Well,
man, I could.
Oh well, sorry. I thought that it was a great segue considering the topic. I feel like one of the best sort of slept on spells is comprehend languages. I use it a lot, and I think almost to your avarice as a dungeon master, because I think a lot of the times when a character's speaking a different language that isn't common, it's very intentional. It's meant to be something mysterious. You're meant to try and interpret things in a different way. Like those breakdowns in communication are meant to happen. And then spellcaster comes up here like, oh yeah, I know, I get what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to struggle with it more in the past as a DM, but I think it was because the particular game we were playing, I wanted language barrier to be a big part of it. And it really hasn't come up so much in my most recent campaign. But yeah, comprehend language is such an awesome utility spell. One of those really useful. It's like, oh man, we don't know what's going on. The better version, obviously, tongues is even better, because comprehend languages has some words in there that can kind of hinder your ability to completely understand or be understood, because it's like the literal meaning and stuff like that, and it's not perfect communication, but definitely something.
See, I like comprehend languages because it's a first level spell, meaning you can get it very early on. And honestly, having that like stipulation that it's the literal meaning of any spoken language can actually lead to some really funny situations too. Like, I kind of like it that not everything's handed to you on a silver platter with a spell, that you kind of have to put in your own work too to interpret that literal meaning.
Yeah. I think if you're a clever DM, you can weave like a puzzle almost into the communication by using literal literal translations of words where it's like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyways, you were saying,
Yeah.
I just really wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. I was just saying, man, we could do a whole episode just talking about spells and magic from D&D that I would use in real life. Like magic items I would want in real life, spells I would use and want in real life in my daily life. Like, oh my
We
gosh. I
should.
just yeah.
We should. I think that'd be a fun episode.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm just bursting at the seams to be like, and this and this and this, and basically all of the murdering spells will be left on the table because it's like they're just worthless in real life.
I'm not a murderer. Maybe if you were in charge of the
gosh.
military or some force, then you would be like, give me some wizards. But I mean, the fun part of D&D is that there's such like a wide breadth of spells. There's just so many. Like in real life, what would you use minor illusion for?
I don't think I would use minor illusion in real life, but if I
Really?
did, I would use it to express thoughts and visualization of things that I'm just not expressing well. So it's like
Oh yeah.
I would use it to be like, oh, do you know so and so? I can't remember her name. Hold on, minor illusion. This person, you know who I'm talking about? Oh yeah, I know that person. That would be so useful. You're like, I cannot think of the famous person's name. Let me summon a picture of him. Woo, and you're like, oh, that's George Clooney. Like, oh yeah. So George
Yeah,
Clooney was in this movie.
exactly.
Yeah, like that would be so useful. Or trying to describe something that happened, or like oh God, I wish you could see her face. Oh wait, you can see her face. It looked like this.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
true.
she looked so shocked. It was amazing. Or trying to describe where something is. And it's like, it's on the bookshelf. Okay, let me just show you the bookshelf. Whoosh, it's right here. I'm pointing at it on the bookshelf. You see it? That's where it is.
Yeah.
Upstairs. Second room to your left. It's on this bookshelf. And it's that under that box. That's what you're looking for. That would be really useful.
Just
So
like
yeah, I
instant
guess.
diagrams. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like the nefarious, deceptive side of minor illusion.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
wouldn't see so much. Like, I'm mostly thinking from a utility point of view as well. That was my first comeuppance, but maybe I have more of a nefarious mind than I thought, because I was definitely thinking like, oh man, I forgot to take out the trash after my mom told me to. So when she pulls it open, like, oh yep, trash is gone. Both cans are empty. Look at that. Meanwhile, she goes back to do her business, and then is that just me?
I
That's
think
probably just me.
disguise self would be cool to look like you're in good shape when you're not. Beach body, snap my fingers, nice. Look at this six pack. Don't touch it because you'll run into my gut first. But
In person catfishing.
yeah. I really am a fan of you being handcuffed during our lovemaking because I don't want you to reach up and touch me and then realize that I feel dramatically different than what I look like.
Oh my god. I mean, that's perfect for it's essentially like a live fake or like a deep fake
You
in
have to
person.
subtly get them used to what you really look like by making the disguised self of you slightly fatter over like the next 2 months until it's you. And then you're like, yeah, I kind of let myself go. I don't know. And it's like, I've never seen someone get so fat so quickly.
Like, hey, you still love me for who I am, right? Yeah, of course. But
Oh my
jeez.
gosh. I think if I could use disguise self, I might just use it for clothing and just go everywhere naked. Because then you get to have all the
Oh.
freedom of being naked, but then you can have all the luxury of clothing you want. You can have, awesome baller hat and shoes and all the most expensive this and that, and you're just completely naked. I guess every once in a while someone would succeed their investigation check though and be like, there's a naked guy just walking
Dude,
around.
this guy is actually nude right now. Why is no one
What the
saying
heck?
anything?
And then like nobody believes him.
Yeah. See,
Oh my gosh.
I would always
Wait,
wear
wait, wait,
something-
wait. Would cameras see through the illusion automatically or would they not?
That's
Would
a
they
great
automatically
question.
fail or automatically succeed?
Because
See, this is why we have to do an episode about magic in real life.
Modern day
D&D
magic.
in the real world.
And not like everyone has access to these spells, but like if you were to suddenly be able to cast spells in the modern world, just
me. Yeah, suddenly have access to all the spells. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think just cute. Okay, I gotta save it. And save it for the episode.
Okay, all right. We're moving on, but stay tuned for further episodes. We'll touch on that again.
We just gotta end it here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of the episode, and get the hell out of my tavern.
I wanted to keep going. I just want another drink. Come on.
No, I'm cutting you off.
All right.
You never pay for these drinks anyway.
Hey, look, it's a big tab. I know. Next adventure is gonna bring in some serious gold. I promise. Like
that's what you said 200 years ago.
Look,
it's okay. I'm past it. I let go of it. I don't. I'm not expecting the money. And because you don't pay for your drinks, I get to say, "Get out of my bar."
All right. I'm going.